8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latino Diaspora. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, what we do here is we discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and the subscriber mode has been enabled, meaning that if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined, I really appreciate your love and support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you to do if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, the topic for tonight is honoring our dead. So, basically, I'm going to share some information regarding Latino um, you know, traditions is kind of honoring our dead. Um, I trust you're gonna find this interesting and something that, if you never thought about, you will soon find out. Now, before we get into the main topic, we're gonna have another episode of In My Words. Um, lately, Disney Corporate has been dealing with a lot of um, negativity. Um, for those of you who don't know, Disney Corporation is the owner of ABC, which ABC produces, well, used to produce the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Well, they had suspended him um, due to the fact that he made light of some comments regarding Donald Trump and Mega. Okay. Now, as a result of having the show postponed, canceled, or fired, or whatever you want to phrase it, uh, they're taking a major hit financially. They've lost billions of dollars um, through multiple sources, through um, uh, decline in you know people attending Disney theme parks, also subscribing to Disney Plus and other sources of income. Um, Now I know that in Donald Trump's world, um, if you say anything slightly negative about El Jefe, the leader, you should be fired. You should be you know you should not have a channel. You should not have an opportunity to voice your opinion. However, um, under freedom of speech, you have a right to say whatever the fluff that's on your mind. Okay. Of course, with freedom of speech is also responsibility. Okay. You can't yell fire in an all crowded movie theater and then watch the people go crazy and then not suffer the consequences. Uh, Now, not what Disney would do? I don't know. But in any case, Jimmy Kimmel should never have been suspended, fired, or whatever you want to phrase it. Okay. Most adults, when they don't like to hear something, they don't hear it, or they don't turn to it. Okay, because some of us actually have thick skins, and we can choose not to consume someone's content. The same thing applies here. Uh, to some people, I'm not exactly their cup of tea, and they're not obligated to consume my content. If they find whatever I say to be objectionable, or they simply don't like what I am saying or what I am talking about, they have the freedom of not to consume my content and go elsewhere. Particularly here on this platform, which is YouTube, where there are literally hundreds of thousands of people, are content creators, which produces all sorts of content. So I'm sure, well, eventually you will find the content you would like to consume. And it should be interesting to see what happens. Will Disney bring back Jimmy Kimmel? And would it be on the edit conditions? Okay. Um, and to be perfectly honest, this is the type of thing that I did discuss last year on my main channel when I tried to educate people regarding um, the 79-year-old man child known as Donald Trump. But people either and suffering from massive stupidity or or selective amnesia and forgot how things went with this country when Trump ran things the first time. But it is what it is. And of course, now we're in the season of autumn, which of course the days are getting shorter, the weather's starting to get a little cooler, and before you know it, it's going to be time for holidays. Okay. Um, for those that do, there'll be people that will observe Halloween, and then after that, there is, of course, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and the Feast of Epiphany, which is known as Three Kings Day. Before I forget, I know it's a little late, but let me just wish the members of the Jewish faith a Happy New Year or Happy Rosh Hashanah. For the Jewish community, this is the time of reflection, which starts with Rosh Hashanah, um, which is the Jewish New Year, and then in a matter of days, it'll be Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. This is the day of the year when observant Jews throughout the world fast and they pray for forgiveness for the sins that they committed for the entire year. It's kind of like Lent for Christians and particularly Catholics. So happy New Year to all the members of the Jewish faith. So with that being said, we're gonna get into the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me just remind everybody that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding the topic at hand, they may do so. However, if I never seen you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come up in the backstage, and the reason is obvious. I have to make sure that you're not going to try to flash any pornographic images, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down their stream. Okay. Unfortunately, there are some individuals, okay, that seem to delight in trying to create discomfort by flashing pornographic images. Okay. And I recently participated in one stream where, well, actually, I watched one stream where they loaded pornographic images, of which the stream had to be taken down a couple times because people, for whatever the reason, had nothing better to do but flash pornographic images. Okay. Now, once I made the determination you're not going to do that, and that you are going to abide by my rules and guidelines that's set on this platform, you will be allowed on the panel. Now, after that, if you wish to come up, fine. If you don't wish to come up, that's also fine as well. I don't dictate what people do um, once they've been vetted. Okay. So with that being said, let me just. Okay. You have to excuse me. Every now and then I have to check and see, is there anyone watching on Instagram. So let me just give you some information to think about. Hispanic funeral traditions are a blend of culture, familiar, and religious customs, often featuring communal wakes with food and music, emotional gatherings to celebrate the deceased life, the use of flowers and candles, and Catholic prayers and traditions, as well as prominent celebration of the Day of the Dead. Okay, now the Day of the Dead, of a Mexican tradition. Okay, excuse me, just want to get something to drink. Extended family participation, shared storytelling, communal meals, and extended mourning periods are also common, with customs varying from country and regional influence. Now, there are key elements to Hispanic funeral traditions. Extended wakes. Wakes are often an essential part of a tradition lasting an extended period, sometimes overnight, where family and friends gather to share stories, food, and prayer, with the atmosphere being social and communal. Family and community involvement. Decisions are often made by soliciting opinions from all family members. The community also plays a significant role in supporting the grieving family, providing food, drinks, and comfort. Excuse me. Now, there's also religious and spiritual practices. Okay. One thing we all have to bear in mind, that's what's common, is that the Latino community, there is a strong Catholic influence. Because one thing we have to bear in mind that most of Latin America at one time belonged to Spain, and of course, the main religious observance observance was Catholicism. Now, So here are the religious and spiritual practices. Catholicism. Many Hispanic cultures are deeply Catholic, and rosaries and prayers and religious keepsakes like saint statues are incorporated with into the rituals. Novena. A 9-day period of prayers is often held for the soul of the deceased to aid in the transition to the afterlife. Yeah, this is something that's very common in Latino families. Um, there's a 9-day of prayer and intercession for the deceased individual. The Day of the Dead. In many cultures, particularly in Mexico, the Day of the Dead is celebrated with ofrendas, which is known as altars, that include food, marigolds, candles, and sugar skulls to welcome the spirits of the deceased. The next thing is emotional expression. Wakes are not always somber. They can be loud and emotional, with both tears and laughter being acceptable ways to express grief and celebrate the life of the loved one. Now, um, as some of you know, in my personal life, I've gone through many um, funerals and many wakes regarding my immediate family, which included both of my parents, four of my siblings, and two of my nephews. And some of the funeral services have been very emotional indeed, particularly when my mother passed away. Visuals. Flowers and candles are common decoration near the body, and the deceased may be dressed in their favorite clothes. Okay. It's common to see um the deceased in a particular, whether it be a suit or a dress or what have you or whatever um the family has selected, or maybe deceased person has expressed they want to be buried in a particular attire. Music and food. The celebration often includes music, particularly the playing of favorite songs, and communion meals featuring traditional foods like tamales and pan de muerto, bread of the dead, are shared. Um, Mourning attire. In some cultures, such as parts of Colombia and Ecuador, people wear black clothing for an extended mourning period up to a year. Okay. Of course, with our family, we wore black uh, from the from the wake to the funeral, and sometimes for a few days after the body's been buried or cremated. Okay. Cultural influences, traditions that often blend indigenous rituals with Catholic practices in specific cultures, customs can vary significantly from one Hispanic country to another. Okay, excuse me. Now, of course, of course, the questions that have always been raised: how do Latinos honor the family members who have died? In addition to prayers and a visit to the grave each year on the date of the death. Hispanic families celebrate the dead on All Souls Day, November 2nd. This is the day when they visit the graves of those who have died, bringing food to the person may of love along with flowers and pictures of the person. Okay. And of course, we all deal with grief uh, in different ways. Some people get very emotional. Some people display little emotion. Okay. And one thing we all have to bear in mind is that there is no expiration period when it comes to grief. Okay. It could be 50 years and you still deal with the loss as it happened yesterday. And of course, when it comes to the novena, traditionally 9 days after the death, a ceremony which is called a rosario takes place that the family of these people organize. Memories of the deceased are shared in the event and prayers are said. Candles are lit and flowers are decorate the venue. Now, rosarios it means rosary. So, and of course, depending on the country, uh, the customs are going to be different. Okay, so let's see. And of course, when it comes to this always bring up the question: do you bury the person, or does the person become cremated? Okay, so now of course there are different viewpoints when it comes to burial and when it comes to cremation. Okay, um, in my faith system, which is Catholicism, it does allow for cremation to occur. However, when the body is cremated, is the ashes are to be buried. Okay, they're not to be kept in a person's home. They're not to be tossed overseas. They're not to be placed in jewelry and things of that nature. Um, it is to be treated with reference. Now I know there are people who prefer to be cremated because it's more economical, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, because in my opinion, it's not how the remains are how for you know you know you know whether they be buried with a body or buried with ashes. What what what's important is how that person lived. Okay, and more importantly, was was that person written in the book of life? Okay, that will determine uh, where that person will where that person will spend eternity. So let's see. Just give me a moment. Now, when it comes to Mexican funerals, I mean, there's certain factors that are integrate, that do take into consideration. Okay. First of all, they have what's called the velorio, which is known as the wake. Um, Far more than simple viewing, the velorio is a lively around-the-clock gathering. Friends, family, and neighbors come together to share food, tell stories, pray, creating an incredible second support for their needed family. And then they have the novena, which is the 9 days of prayer. This is a beautiful continuation of that support. For 9 days following the burial, the community continues to gather for prayer, ensuring the family feels supported long after the funeral service itself has ended. And of course, they have what's called El Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. This famous and annual celebration is the ultimate expression of a enduring connection. Families create vibrant ofrendas, altars, to welcome the souls of their ancestors back for a joyful temporary reunion, reinforcing the belief that the bond that our loved one is never truly broken. These traditions are a rich blend of indigenous heritage and Catholic faith, focused always on storytelling, shared meals, and continued presence of the community to affirm the power of enduring connection with those who have passed on. Okay. So let's see. So now I'm just going to share. mm, No, I'm not going to share this. So I'm just going to share one more thing, and then I'm going to summarize and then wrap it up for the benefit of those who are just tuning in. The topic for tonight is honoring our dead. So I'm talking about Latino funeral customs and traditions. In Hispanic culture, death is viewed as a natural part of life, if often approaches with a sense of acceptance and reverence. Departed loved ones dead are often considered active members of the family and community, watching over and guiding their loved ones. It can be seen in where people carefully cur- curate their domestic shrines. They display favorite snapshots and leaving heartfelt offerings. In addition, they are often welcome visit to those peaceful sites where love and loss converge. In Mexican culture, especially the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos is a prime example where families celebrate the lives of those who passed. The ceremony with altars, offerings, and festivals reinforces the connection between the living and the dead. Now, again, I'm gonna share with you what's the typical traditional Hispanic funeral practices. First of all, we have the velorio, which is the vigil and wake. The vigil or wake is a key component. Well, it says Mexican, but I would say Latino culture in general, which traditionally lasts 24 to 40 hours, during which the family and friends gather to pay their respects, offer condolences, and share memories. The body that is deceased is on display in an open casket. It's surrounded by flowers, candles, and religious images, creating a space of reflection and prayer. And then there's religious services. Given the strong Catholic influence, a funeral mass is typically held at a church This service provides spiritual support and solace to the grieving family. The priests offer blessings, and congregation participate in communal prayers for the soul of the departed. And of course, there are Christian services um, where they um, celebrate the life of the departed person. And then there's the burial or the cremation. Following the religious service, the body is taken for burial site or crematorium. Traditional burials are still prevalent, with graves often decorated with flowers, photographs, and personal mementos. To those who choose cremation, ashes may be kept in an urn, interned in a columbarium, or scattered as a meaningful location. We perform many scattering at sea, which is a beautiful way to commemorate the passing if this is of interest. Of course, as I stated before, Catholicism believe, shares the belief that ashes are to be buried, okay? Not to be tossed overseas, not to be kept in an urn, and not to be kept in a bracelet or any type of jewelry. And then, of course, you have the 9-day novena, which is known as novenario. In the days following a funeral, it's customary to hold a novena. The 9 consecutive days of collective prayer to provide solace to the bereaved, strengthening the bonds with the community. Now, in different Hispanic cultures have different unique customs. For example, in Guatemala, the Day of the Dead is celebrated with giant kites, paretes, flown to communicate with the dead. In Peru, it's customary to visit cemeteries, clean and decorate graves, and bring food and music to honor the deceased. As well, in Puerto Rico, wakes can be very emotional with all expressions of grief. The deceased might be dressed in their favorite clothes and pose in lifelike positions. Um, that's true, particularly regarding the wake for my mother. It was very emotional, particularly with um, the remaining siblings and myself. And I made an unusual request, okay, which was honored. Being that I was the closest one to my mother, I requested and I was granted the request to say the final goodbye to my mom. And and of course, whenever we have a family member passes away, I always share with my family the same message. Value the people that you have left. And when the last member of our family is alive, treat that person with a great deal of love and respect, and treat them like gold. Because once the final member goes away, passes away, that's it. There is no opportunity for a reconciliation. There's no opportunity to end any um, bitterness or estrangement. In some Hispanic cultures, there are extended mourning periods with specific customs. For instance, in certain parts of Colombia and Ecuador, mourning attire, often black, may be worn up to a year, as well as social activities may be limited during this period. While communal meals and gatherings are both Mexican and common in both Mexican and Hispanic funerals, the specific foods and manner gathering can differ. In Mexico, tamales and pan de muerto, bread of the dead, are traditional. In other countries, local traditions and customs will prevail. The influence of indigenous traditions varies widely across Hispanic countries. In Mexico, indigenous rituals and symbols are deeply integrated into family customs. In different countries, cultural influences may be more or less present. So that kind of gives you a bit of an overview regarding Latino funeral customs and traditions and the way that we honor our departed loved ones. Regardless regardless whether you're from you're from the Caribbean or you're from Central America or if you're from South America, um, the focus is to cause the honor the memory of the person who has departed, who's gone to their final reward, when they've gone to the final destination. Okay. While there's some differences, there are also some similarities. But what's similar is a time for reflection. It's a time to consult the family of the departed, and also it's a time to share fond memories regarding the person who who has departed to their final destination, whatever that may be. Okay. So I do hope you found this informative. If you ever wonder what some of the things that we do to honor our departed, now you know. Or at least you have somewhat of an idea. I mean, you can do further research and things of that nature. And of course, you can always ask, like, for example, how do Puerto Ricans honor our faithfully departed? How Dominicans honor the faithfully departed? And of course, there's going to be many similarities and there's going to be some differences. Uh, what's common is that we all wish to show our love and support to the grieving family and honor the memory of the faithfully departed. So with that being said, the next time I'm going to be live, it's going to be on my main channel on Thursday night, where I'll have another episode of Open Discussion. Now, for those of you who do not know what happens in Open Discussion, what I would do is I will share my views regarding several topics. And of course, you will have an opportunity to opine regarding each topic. It also is your opportunity to bring up any topics that you wish for me to discuss, and I will do my best to comply. Uh, if it's something that I do not have a great deal of knowledge about it, I will be transparent and state so. The ones, the one thing that I will not talk about is the situation going on between the Israeli government and Hamas. And the reason behind that is because people can get very emotional. It, very few people are capable of having a serious and intellectually honest discussion. And of course, people will pick sides. And if you want to have that discussion, you can have it elsewhere. We're not going to have it here. Okay. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. Of course, um, the playback end, you're more than welcome to share whatever comments that you wish. Or as do try to keep those comments respectable, because any disrespectful comments they will be deleted. Of course, if you wish to share, fine, as long as you're not gonna do it to ridicule me or whatever. But if you wish to, if you wish to get some information regarding how we observe funeral customs and beliefs, you're more than welcome to share. And with that being said, I'm going to close as I always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by stupidity and massive insanity. And of course, the other way we're going to close is whatever you say and do it for the glory of God. I believe it's in Colossians. I don't know. I'll have to do some research where it is cited. So, with that being said, have a good night. Take care. Stay blessed. And peace.
Be strong.